made a video for channel 1. I said in that video I was going to post that video to both channels, but something else came to mind. We're talking about the harvest. And, you know, people think that the harvest of the church is at the end of the world, which is not. Matthew 13 clearly says in verse 38 through 40, but as I had already uploaded that video to channel 1, there is something that hit me in 13. And as we are trying to help people understand this notion that you believe that the church is going, and there's some say it's mid, but a lot of people believe it's at the end of the world, which it is not. And if you just simply read your scriptures and just don't stop because you think that verse is the one that fits the narrative, if you continue to read, it plainly tells you. Okay? Now, I covered this on channel 1. And in the beginning, you go to Matthew 13 and 30. Satan comes and plants his tares amongst the wheat. And these are folks that's walking around with us today that swear they know what they talking about. I'm not talking about people of the world, because obviously you had 5 foolish that were buddied up with the 5 wise, but they got separated in the wisdom of the wise. We can't give you none of our oil. You got to go get your own. So if people just simply read the verse or verses, okay? Christ is clear who gets burned at the end of the world. But if you only stop, I'm going to tell you how people make this mistake and think it's first of all, let's just use some common sense, folks. The first 6 seals, millions of people are getting ready to die. And if God himself, who allows Christ to take the book of the seals out of his hand, and Christ is the only one worthy to open the seals, why would Christ open the seals on his own bride, which clearly show the bride, which is us, the 7 spirits of Yah, the 7 churches of Yah, standing before the throne with the Lamb? We watch him. I'm going to continue to repeat this. We watch him open up every seal in heaven. And we watch what plays out on earth. Obviously. And we get to see what's coming to these jokers. The enemy that sowed them in is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world. And the reapers are the angels. See, people read that right there and think, oh, well, see, that's the church. They don't say nothing about no church. They don't say nothing about a church. If you read what it say, it's telling you who it's talking about. The enemy sowed them in. The enemy didn't sow us in. He sowed his tares in. What's being harvested at the end of the world? It is not the church, folks. The church been gone. When people thought, what, nothing going to happen. Oh, we're living, we're still waiting on all this other stuff, right? But the word is clear. Satan's tares will be gathered up at the end of the world. Now watch this. Verse 40 says it all. And what's verse 40? We just got through talking about the number 40 and Nineveh. Testing. This is the reason why I had to come back and do this video just a little bit, tiny bit different than the one I did on channel 1. Because as verse 40, you know the number 40 means testing. The lamb was tested at the end of his 40 days of fasting by who? The devil came in. Tested. Tried to get him to commit suicide. Tried to get him to bow down. Jesus wasn't having it. He gave us an example on how to deal with the enemy. By speaking the word to the enemy, he will leave you alone. He ain't got no choice. He must flee. Look at verse 40. What verse 40 say? Therefore, the tares. So when you see the word as therefore, it's backing up verse 39. I keep telling folks this all the time, folks. If you're not properly reading the scriptures, you're missing the edification of the scripture, because we just blow through words. You always look at the verse and what word it starts with. Verse 40 starts with as therefore. When you look at the word therefore is saying this is the conclusion to what was said before, which is 39. But 40, we know, is testing. As therefore, Jesus tested everybody's faith. He walked the earth 40 days before he ascended up. Thomas failed the test because he looked right at Christ and didn't believe it was him. And Christ had to do what? Come over here, son. Put your hands XYZ so you can know it's me. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of the world. Okay? That's what's going to happen. The tares are tested by the fire. We're tested by the fire at the Bema seat and given rewards. All of our works. Either way, you're going to get, you still got to get tested. But you don't want to be a part of this testing, because in Revelation 14 and 15, verse 39 gives reference. And Revelation 14 verse 15 says, this is the time of the great wine press, the wrath of God. This is not a rapture. It's not a harvest going up at the end of the world, folks. The new city, Jerusalem, adorned as a bride, sits down on earth. The third realm enters into this realm and sits down on earth in the new city of Jerusalem. Okay? Plain and simple. You got two trump calls. 1 Thessalonians says that in 4:16, God himself shall blow the trumpet. But then at the end of the world, God will send his angels to blow the trumpet. Now, Jesus is also speaking, and he says in 41, the Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity. These things are going to be gathered up at the end of the world. His kingdom is both above and on earth. The earth is God's and the fullness thereof. Don't let these people fool you thinking that this is their kingdom, because it ain't. At the end of the world, folks, the tares will be dealt with. Matthew 13 and 30, Matthew 40, which is the number of testing, they will be dealt with at the end of the world and cast in to the lake of fire. But if you look at Revelation 14:15, which reference from Matthew 13 and 39, that's the great wine press wrath of God. Blood shall come running out. No, if you think that's the harvest you want to be a part of, by all means, you shall have what you say. Okay? The number 40, verse 40, I keep telling you guys, the decode is in the number of the verses. They are tested by fire and dumped in the great wine press, the wrath of God. That, if you think that's the harvest that you want to be a part of, that's what you want to believe, instead of saying, you know what, these people showed me something that wasn't correct. All I had to do is read the next verse, and the verse after that, it clearly shows you who is being harvested at the end of the earth. And in those verses, they're not called fruit. They're called what they are, tares. And the enemy planted them, and they will be dealt with at the end of the world. Hope that helps you out, folks, because those of us who have been diligently seeking, we're taken alive and we're going up. We're not going up in fire. We're going up into the third realm. Those are two different events, folks. Two different. One is extreme, everlasting torture, and the other one is eternal bliss and peace in paradise. Which one you want to be a part of? Deuces.